Well, the weekend has begun. So for today, we're going to be doing three reviews from three different events. The first one is the latest Stardom show in Niigata, Sanjo, of course, featuring, of course, the main event, the full force of the Cosmic Angels taking on B. Priestley and the members of Stars. And this one had a very unique, interesting moment because, as many don't know, it also marked the birthday of Aya Sakura of the Cosmic Angels, and she received a very interesting birthday thing from Stars and B. Priestley, so I'll get to that. And then, of course, we move on with New Japan as they've begun to road to destruction. Now, as many of you know, some matches will be taking place, such as, of course, the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. Gabe Kidd will defend his belt against Shingo. And then, of course, the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship will be defended. Zack Sabre will defend his belt against Ren Narita, a man who defeated him during the G1, and now he's cashing in the opportunity to bring that belt back where it's supposed to belong, to the House of Losers. So we'll see how things will roll from there. And then finally, our last review is AEW Collision. As you all know, we're only 1 week away before we head to Toronto for All Out. So anything could happen before then. And then, of course, we wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be gaining a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions have been said. Let's get started. So let's begin with Stardom. Okay, Stardom. This is their much latest show that just came out, and it took place in Niigata, Sanjo, at the Sanjo City Public Welfare Hall. So that's where they were. Now, we opened up with Mi Vida Loca, consistent of Bozilla, Rina Yamashita, and Akira Kurogane. Now, however, many of you may or may not heard, it was announced that Suzuki, along with Meisera, are unable to participate due to poor health. So hopefully they'll recover soon enough. But they face against the combined forces of Maishima and the current, our favorite tag team, and individual champions FWC, consistent of Koguma, our current CML Japan Women's Champion, and of course Azuki, our current Yoshi World Spark Yoshi World Champion. So basically, that's pretty much how it goes. However, many of you would speculate how this was going to go due to the fact that Emma Maishima is the least experienced in this match, knowing that she does not have the years of experience yet, maybe in the years to come. But however, she was the one who ended up taking the fall after Bozilla put her through a pile driver, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Our next match, we have a singles action. We have Kikyo Furuzawa taking on Rana Yagami. Now, much like Emma Maishima, for those who know, Furuzawa, in fact, is also in the same kind of experience timeline as her, knowing that they started out in the same, they debuted around the same time, but however, we have seen Furuzawa how much of experience she has gained. Not to mention, she was able to put people in submissions in ways that you wouldn't comprehend. And of course, many people probably started to speculate who she end up. And I wouldn't be surprised, because a part of me would think that she would end up with God's Eye. But however, Rana Yagami had to put her down when she applied the buzzsaw kick. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now our next match, we have the members of Hate. We have Rina and Natsuko Tora taking on God's Eye members Lady C and Ami Suri. Now, of course, when it comes to Hate, you know they would do whatever it takes to dismantle their opponents, soften them up, taking them into the ring. However, things got really out of control when Natsuko Tora decided to use a chair to whack Lady C. Ami Suri did whatever it needs necessary to stop her, but however, Rina put out the whip, and just like that, Natsuko Tora nailed Lady C with the chair, and just like that, they were disqualified, and the match ended in favor of God's Eye. They may not have wanted this win in this way, but I'm sure they will love nothing more to get revenge on them for what they've been causing. So we'll see what happens till then. Now our next match, you can consider this part of a preliminary match. We have, of course, EXV consistent of Rian, Hanako, and Waka Tsukiyama of EXV taking on God's Eye members with Kyoka Kotatsu, Hina, and Saki Kashima. Many of you may know this, that Hanako has issued the challenge for the future belt, and this happened recently right after the last big show they did in Korakuen Hall. And now this is a preliminary match, but the real question you ask yourself, who will get the momentum on this one? Now, of course, I'm sure Hina will do whatever it takes to ensure she will not lose this match in order to build up that momentum, because she knows perfectly well that Hanako, she's a force to be reckoned with. Not to mention, she may be big and strong, but she has techniques that I don't know if she'll be able to use. Don't forget, Hina, along with her sisters, they do have a background in judo, and that plays out pretty well. But however, it may not be enough. But unfortunately, of course, in this scenario, Kashima was outsmarted by Waka and put her in a inside cradle, which really surprised me. And I think that this will be a perfect opportunity for Waka, due to the fact that, as you all know, Kashima is a former high-speed champion, and Waka will love nothing more to get a bit of experience against wrestlers who have high-speed standards. And the only two I think she should try to get in touch with that, it would be Starlight Kid and Azumi, but we'll see what happens. Now our next match, we have another part of the preliminary match. We have Neo Genesis, Miyu Amisaki, Azumi, and Starlight Kid taking on the members of Hate, consistent of Momo Watanabe, Konami, and Sei Kamitani. Now, for those who remember, recently Azumi issued a challenge for the red belt, but however, Kamitani requested, why not put the New Japan Strong Women's Championship on the line? And of course, this is what Kamitani wants, because she wants to prove that she is the one who's going to make Stardom shine in blackness. And that's exactly what she intends to do. And Azumi, as you all know, her shared history with Kamitani. But this match went out of control and ended in a double countout after 14 minutes and 7 seconds. This match could have ended in a time limit draw, but no, of course, tempers are high from both sides, especially when it comes to Azumi and Kamitani, who used to be former members of Queen's Quest, and I'm sure Azumi will love nothing more to put her in her place. Now, our main event, we have the full force of the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara, Aya Sakura, Yuna Mizumori, Sayuri Anu, and Natsupoi taking on B. Priestley and the members of Stars, Yuri Him, Momo Kogo, Saya Ida, and Hanan. So this is a good moment because, of course, many of you may know I mentioned this. It's actually Aya Sakura's birthday, who turned 29. However, there was a moment where, of course, B. Priestley, along with Stars, were giving her chops, so they were counting up to 29. And of course, Aya mentioned on her X account that, of course, she kind of doesn't pay attention to the number of her age, but she should have known better. But unfortunately, she was not the one who ended up losing this match. In the end, it was, of course, Kurara ended up being brain bust, of course, by Saya Ida, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, this is what was not shown inside the ring for many of you. As you all know, Stars and B. Priestley closed down the show. But during the post-match comments, Hanan asked B. Priestley if she would like to join Stars. And this was a bit of a surprise to me because I think many people will probably say, no, she'd probably be better off with herself. But recently we've been seeing the bond between both Hanan and B really create. I mean, B. Priestley kind of praised Hanan when they faced each other at the 5-Star Grand Prix recently. And it's kind of interesting. Now, I don't know what Natsuko Tora and the rest and certain members of Hate will make of this, because I wouldn't be surprised if Hate will try to convince her that she's better off joining with them. But who knows? We'll see how things will progress with B. Priestley as a member of Stars. But I like to hear you guys tell me. Do you think that B. Priestley could have been better off with another faction, or you're rather curious to see how things would elevate with her as a member of Stars? Which, as you know, she's been with Queen's Quest, she's been with Oedo Tai, and that was it. But we'll see. But as of right now, we're finished with Stardom, so let's move on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling Road to Destruction. Now, it already has begun recently, and this is day 3 of this tour, and they made their return back to Korakuen Hall. Now, we opened up with Young Lion action. We have Zane J taking on Tatsuya Matsumoto. Yeah, hopefully I pronounced it right. Matsumoto. Now, of course, when it comes to Young Lions, we have seen on various instances where they either the match and in a time limit draw, or one will get one over the other. That's something that we've seen all the time. But however, this match ended after a 10-minute time limit draw, and just like that, nobody wins, nobody loses. So that's something we do expect with the Young Lions. So we'll see how things will progress with them. Now, speaking of the Young Lions, in the next match, the remaining other Young Lion members, of course, such as Masatora Yasuda, Katsuya Murashima, and Shomokata Kota, they take on the veteran wrestlers like GBH, Tomoaki Hamna, and Toki Makabe, along with Tiger Mask. Now, of course, many of you know this type of scenario, how this is going to play out. The Young Lions most likely would lose the match against veterans, which is very common that happen. But we have often seen the veterans put the Young Lions in the Boston Crab, because it's their way to teach them this is how you do the Boston Crab, because they have to master it. But however, in the end, it was Togi Makabe that took out Yasuda with the lariat, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, our next match, we have the House of Losers, Dick Togo, Evil, and Don Fale taking on Yuya Uemura, Shota Umino, and Boltin Oleg, our current Never Openweight champion. Now, for many of you that know this already, ever since Don Fale made his return to New Japan and aligned himself with the House of Losers, he's been gunning for the Never Openweight championship, and this is going to be a test for Boltin Oleg, knowing that he is facing a much bigger competitor, but also a man who plays dirty. As you all know, the members of House of Torture, they like to play dirty. But however, that did not work in this matter forever because it was Yuya Uemura who picked up the win by applying an armbar on Dick, and just like that, Dick had no choice but to tap out. But however, in the post-match, you know Boltin Oleg does not want to wait till their title match against Fale, so they've been going back and forth. But of course, Shota Umino and Yuruma tried to restrain him, try to tell him, hey, save it till you get your match done. But of course, Boltin Oleg is not going to take that kindly, knowing too well that he has this guy who wants to take away his title, a title he worked so hard to get to. But we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match, we have the unaffiliated. Well, they're not officially a faction, but that's what they call themselves. Daiki Nagai, a young lion, teaming up with, of course, the former members of LIJ, consistent of Hiromu Takahashi. As you all know, recently he just won the GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship, and of course he displayed it for the fans to see. And I'm sure the Noah fan base are not happy that he is showing that belt on public television, on live television or something. And of course we had Yoda Tsuji and Shingo Takagi. They take on the Bullet Club War Dogs, consistent of Geto, Taiji Ishimori, David Finlay, and Gabe Kidd. Now, this particular match you can consider a preliminary match. As you all know, Shingo Takagi has issued a challenge for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship against Gabe Kidd. So you probably can tell how that was going to be. Now, of course, you all know the weakest link in this match is Daiki Nagai, who is still a young lion, but he's still on the learning curve with, of course, with the former members of LIJ. But it was, in fact, Gabe Kidd who sent a direct message to Shingo when he applied not one, but two power drivers to Daiki Nagai, and just like that, it was over. So, Gabe Kidd picked up the win. Now, we got the other members of the War Dogs, Clark Connors, and of course, Oscar and Yudo Ice taking on Taka Michinoku, Taichi, and Tomohiro Ishii. Now, remember, ever since Oscar and Yudo Ice made the return back to New Japan from their excursion, they're aiming now for the IWGP tag team belt, which they haven't been defended yet, and they feel right now for both Yudo Ice and Oscar Lobe that it finds pathetic that, of course, Taichi and Ishii have not been able to defend their belts, and now they want to prove their point by taking them away. However, of course, it was the War Dogs who walked away with the win when they applied the KOB on Taka Michinoku, but it was Yudo Ice who made the final pin, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But you know, Taichi and Ishii are not going to, let this one go. You know they will have their sights set for them. Now, our next match, we have the other members of the House of Losers, consistent of Sho, Doiki, Yujiro Takahashi, Sanada, and Ren Narita, taking on TMDK, consistent of Harley Jackson, Rohei Oiwa, Kosei Fujita, Robbie Eagles, and of course, our current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr. Now, you can consider this one also part of the preliminary match. As you all know, when on Destruction in Kobe, and later on this month, I believe, Ren Narita will be challenging for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Zack Sabre Jr. Now, for many of you, you would ask yourself, what did Ren Narita did to get this opportunity? For many of you that not know this or have not been following, Ren Narita defeated Zack Sabre Jr. at the G1 Climax. Now, he may not have won the tournament, but I figured, because I know how the House of Torture operate, they know they have an opportunity to snatch that belt and bring it back to the House of Losers. It's what they want. And of course, that match is building up the momentum. However, as you all know, the House of Losers are nothing but a bunch of morons and a bunch of thugs that would do whatever it takes to win. I mean, like giving low blows, using weapons, that sort of thing. However, it was Sanada who did that when he low blowed, of course, Rohei Oiwa and Hartley Jackson, and because of that, it kind of built up the momentum for Ren Narita to apply the Hell's Guillotine onto Harley Jackson, and just like that, 1, 2, 3. And I'm sure Ren Narita is having a time of his life saying, hey, dickhead, I'm taking that belt from you, and there's nothing you can do about it. But of course, you know that Zack Sabre Jr. is going to be well prepared for what's coming next. So we'll see what happens. Now for our main event is the Never Openweight 6-man tag team belt. We have the challengers, El Desperado, Ryosuke Taguchi, and they team up with the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, taking on the current champions, Yo, Master Wato, and Toru Yano. Now, of course, it's interesting to see Toru Yano and Tanahashi on the opposite side. Don't forget, these guys were tag team partners, and not to mention former Never Openweight champions together, along with Bolton Oleg. And now it's like they're the opposite side. Now, of course, we were going to see some comedic fun coming from, of course, with Taguchi with his pants down, seeing his red underwear playing out. But in the end, it was, of course, Master Wato that survived his former tag partner Taguchi, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So it was a pretty good event. I enjoyed it. So I can't wait to see what else is going to happen. So as of right now, we are done with New Japan. Let's move on with our last and final review, AEW Collision. Okay, last review, AEW Collision. Ian Riccaboni, who you may have seen him as the voice of Ring of Honor, who also done some commentary with AEW, was in the ring to do an interview with MJF, but however, MJF was in no condition, of course, for himself. As you know, he is the kind of guy who doesn't want to talk to anybody, so he told Ian Riccaboni just to be his mic stand. So as you know, he is, of course, has an unfinished business towards Mark Briscoe. But however, Mark Briscoe, as you know, he decided to announce his stipulation. In this stipulation, he decided, how about some tables? Because, as you know, ironically, they were in the 2300 arena, and it was because he was inspired by the late Sabu. But however, he decided, let's make this into a tables and dumb tax match, TNT, and that's exactly what it was going to happen. But however, unbeknownst to MJF, well, it was practically a plot by Mark Briscoe so he can initially attack, and of course, MJF ran to the hills, and that's exactly what he did. Now, Lexi Neer conducted an interview with Paragon with Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, along with a conglomeration member, Hologram, who, as you all know, there was a clip where you saw that little computer thing that leads to El Clone. However, apparently Paragon are very, very disappointed individuals after what happened. They are not happy what Daniel Garcia did this past Wednesday. And of course, they had to bring up that Adam Cole, as you all know, was very disappointed in him for what he did. But of course, the main event features both members of Paragon to face the Death Riders with Daniel Garcia and Jon Moxley. So we'll get to that in a bit. Now, our first match is the AEW Unified Championship Eliminator match. We have Konosuke Takeshita versus Anthony Bowens. Now, of course, there have been tensions going around between both Takeshita and Okada recently. Okada is trying to tell Takeshita, hey, I'm the top dog here, so respect me, bitch, that sort of thing. But Takeshita, he is determined to reach the top no matter what. Now, I'm going to put this out here because I'm not sure what if I do predict it. Many of you may remember Kyle Fletcher did mention that someone is going to get kicked out. I wouldn't be surprised if that was Fletcher. Not Fletcher. Takeshita, since he's not a fan of Okada. But however, this match, as you know, for him to get his hands on Okada, he had to go through Anthony Bowens, and that's exactly what he did when he applied the Raging Fire, and just like that, it was over. Now, much like we saw the $500,000 10-man tag team match, well, now it's the women. We have the members of Triangle of Madness, consisted, of course, of Tekla, Julie Hart, and Sky Blue, teaming up with Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. They take on Ty J, Ty Mello, and Anna Jay, with Harley Cameron and Chris Statlander, along with Jamie Hayter. But however, in the in the commentary booth, of course, Toni Storm is there watching. For those who may not remember, there's going to be a four-way match for the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm will defend her belt against three other competitors, Tekla, Jamie Hayter, and of course Chris Statlander. And of course, there were some miscommunications between both Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter, which is common because these two will be fighting for the title. But unfortunately, this match ended with, of course, a spear by Tekla to Carly Cameron, and just like that, it was over. And then, of course, there was a beatdown coming from the Triangle Madness to Jamie Hayter. Well, this match turned interesting when Mina Shirakawa, along with Queen Aminata, decided to show up and deal with the Triangle Madness, who they had dealt with recently. And not to mention, Toni Storm got her hands on Tekla and put her through a Storm Zero, and just like that, it was over. So message has been sent from Toni Storm to Tekla. Now our next match, we have Max Caster with his usual 5-minute challenge with Big Bill. Well, apparently you can tell this match ended with Big Bill, of course, winning after 3 minutes and 6 seconds to spare. However, of course, during the post-match, of course, Big Bill has one thing inside: he wants to face against Eddie Kingston. So we haven't heard yet when he'll be back, but there's speculations it could happen in All Out. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, at Max in the back, we did see Max Caster and Anthony Bowens slug it out, of course, going from the back all the way to the ring. And then Jerry Lynn tried to get involved and tried to talk sense into them. However, Swirl decided to get involved, Blake Christian and Lee Johnson, and then all hell broke loose. Those beatdowns happening. So I don't know what's going to happen from there. Are we going to be seeing the Acclaim renewed and Jerry Lynn will be the new mentor? I don't know. I mean, anything is a possibility, but we'll see. Now, Lex Luger conducted an interview with Mystico. As you know, MJF had some unfinished business with him. He's going to face him to put the title, the CML title, on the line. But Mystico, if he loses, he has to remove his mask, which is something he cannot afford. But we'll see. Now, our next match, this is part 2. FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler take on Tommy Billington, aka Dynamite Kid, and Adam Priest. And you can tell this match was pretty good because, of course, we know that FTR's main focus is to dismantle both Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. But in the end, of course, it was a spike power driver onto Billington by FTR, but it was, of course, Dax who picked up the win by pinning Tommy Billington. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over, sending a direct message to Copeland and, of course, to Christian Cage. Now, our next match is for the AEW Unified Championship. Kazuchika Okada defended against, of course, Michael Oku. Of course, Michael Oku is a phenomenal wrestler, but however, things didn't go exactly according to plan because it was Okada when he applied a perfect dropkick and then the Rainmaker, and that was it. However, Takeshita made his way, sending a direct message to Okada, but the real question is, who's the dominant Japanese in the Don Callis family? That's something we're definitely going to see down the road. Now, the Death Riders, Daniel Garcia and Jon Moxley make their way to deal with Paragon. Now, of course, Marina Shafir is going to get involved, but I have to say the match itself was pretty interesting, pretty good, but unfortunately Daniel Garcia was able to win when, of course, he had O'Reilly right where he wanted him, and then later Jon Moxley applied his stomp onto him, and then, of course, a high angle Scorpion Deathlock onto Fletcher by Garcia. O'Reilly by Garcia was the deal factor, and just like that, it was over. But of course, Daddy Magic wants answers, like why did Garcia win his way to join the Death Riders? But hopefully one day we'll find out, but it is what it is. So as we know, that's how things end with AEW. So we'll see what happens for this coming Wednesday, and don't forget, next week it's All Out. So as of right now, we are done with our reviews. Let's move on with our news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news news update, so let's begin with upcoming events. Texas-based promotion, Texas Wrestling Cartel, has announced their upcoming event, Respect My Gangster. If you guys remember that phrase from Friday After Next, where they're being chased by that guy, both Craig and Dede, where that Michael Epps' other character is like, "Respect my gangster." Yeah, that's a good title. This event will take place on the 20th of September. It was announced that Mike Santana will face off against Eddie Martinez. I don't know who he is, but he's involved in this match. Now, Wrestling Revolver, as you know, will be making their return back to Redford, Texas for their upcoming Revolver Redemption, taking place on the 27th of September. They announced the MPX tag team belts will be on the line. The Scorn will take on Alpha Zig. GCW for the Bloodsport London event on the 28th, they announced two more names, Lou Nixon and Brett Simitex. Prestige Wrestling has announced for the Roseline 12th event on the 5th of October that the DPW Women's World Title will be defended. Nicole Matthews defends her belt against Amira. And then finally, House of Glory for the with Glory Comes Pride on the 10th of October. It's a winner takes all match. Basically, the Hardys will put their TNA tag team titles on the line against the main event. So whoever walks out will have two, of course, championships by themselves. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Now on to some developments. Now I'm not sure if this is 100% true, but if anybody knows the answer to that, High Spot Podcast has revealed that Dragon Lee, that his WWE contract will be expiring 3 months. Now I don't know if there's any been reports about it. There's talk about that. If there is, please leave a comment down below. I really like to get that information. But that's exactly what has been reported. Now, for many of you that saw recently, we saw that Kyle Fletcher has issued a challenge for the AEW World Title against Hangman. Now, however, it was reported that Wardlow was supposed to be the guy to challenge Hangman, but due to him getting injured again, AEW had to scramble and put a replacement, and that person was Kyle Fletcher. And then finally, Fightful Select reports that Andrade, many of you may know him from both CML as La Sombra, then Andrade El Idolo. Well, apparently it has been reporting that he quietly departed from WWE. So it's still unclear about certain things about that. So some people say that his run with WWE was messed up, but AEW did mention that their split was very amicable. So I don't know if there's any chances we'll see him return to AEW. That's something we don't know, but we'll see what happens. But as of right now, we're done with everything, so let's just call it a day. Okay, so hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up now, I did not have the opportunity to see the latest World Collide event between WWE and AAA. We know that the AAA Mega Championship will be defended, so that I am willing to see. I'm definitely trying to catch up with much of the Yoshi events. I may not be able to do that. I want to catch up with certain ones I can. I know there was the day 3 for the N1 victory by Noah, and I know as we speak, Stardom has their much recent show. I don't know about New Japan, but we'll see things how go. And I know that there's some recent events coming from Choco Pro, so I may do those at another time, or maybe lump it in there. I'm not sure. So we'll see how things will progress as we go. So as of right now, until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.